Welcome to another reaction stream. We still have 2 games left in Game Week 23, but we also will look ahead to Game Week 24, where maybe a lot of us will be rolling. And from what I'm gathering, I'm not the only one to maybe have a major benching headache, which actually ended up backfiring. So in the last minute leading up to the deadline stream, so literally what, it was 10:59 a.m. UK time, I decided to bring in Ivan Toney for Luke Shaw. And it looked like it was a really good decision yesterday with Toney getting a goal and 3 bonus points. But in the end, Luke Shaw bettered that with an assist, a clean sheet, and a 12-pointer sitting on my bench. In the end, it was Botman that I really needed to bench. And if I did that, instead of maybe just gaining a few hundred places in rank, I could have been looking at maybe another mega week where I get a major green arrow. But so far, a minimal green, and that is mainly due to Riyad Mahrez with a goal and an assist, and a 12-pointer with 2 bonus points yet to come as well. Erling Haaland, though, I can see a lot of frustration there. Some people may be triple captaining him, coming off a half-time, just the assist, and it looks like he was nursing an injury. I would expect him to be completely fine for the Wednesday game, but not ideal for a captain or triple captain. And that just goes to show that sometimes maybe going against him can definitely pay off, but it's just so difficult to kind of decide exactly when that is. Last week was very simple with Marcus Rashford, but in weeks like this, it's very difficult to go against him. But welcome to everyone, and thank you very much for tuning in. I'm going to go through your questions and comments, and let's just wait and see how many benching headaches or, kind of problems you have, because I've seen some mega point hauls on the bench, which would have made for a really good bench boost. So welcome, Rakugu. We start off with that. Bench Toney, March, and Shaw. Yeah, that is... Wow, that's just really poor. I have just Toney and Andres Pereira, and I'm already quite frustrated. I think it's probably the worst feeling you could have in FPL, to have points bench like that. And by the way, I have Shaw, not Toney. But yeah, it's just so frustrating. I do feel your pain. I've never had anything quite like that. I've had some mega hauls from a certain player, but to have 3 of them sitting on your bench is definitely frustrating. Yeah, I would be done as well, to be fair. Welcome, Tech. Very weird question here. The answer is no. I've not had raw eggs. Oliver, I don't know why I'm saying Olivier, I think I know Giroud, got 30 points on the bench. Yeah, it seems to be quite common this week, and I've only got 20, and I'm already frustrated. So, yeah, maybe makes me feel a bit better. You could say, I don't know, I do feel for you, I have to say that. Cylindra says, drop from 25k to 40k without even taking a hit. Shaw and March on the bench. Yeah, once again, it's quite understandable to do that. And really, if we look at the game, Leeds should have scored. They had plenty of chances, but just like the Arsenal game, I think back in October, they should have probably won the game, but they just missed these crucial chances. And in the end, if you don't take your chances, you always leave that possibility for the opposition to win the game. And for sure to get the assist on top of it is just the icing on the cake in that case. I've got Shaw on my bench. Yeah, I'm not alone in that, but I originally had him in my team. That's the frustration, and maybe I should have considered benching Botman, which I did, to be fair, but really for me it was always between Toney and Shaw, and I missed out in the end with a last-minute decision. Haaland injured or hooked for rest. Any chance that Ake doesn't play against Arsenal as well? Yeah, I think, Singh, you put that just before Ake came on in the first game. It doesn't really matter anyway, and it really depends on the situation on Wednesday, what happens, which teams go in front, and what the substitutions need to bring to the team. But yeah, that dream is already gone, unfortunately for you, and I thought he would have come on anyway in the game against Arsenal. It's kind of, this is what we mean about Pep Guardiola and Pep Roulette, Ake and Akanji, the 2 most nailed-on defenders for Manchester City, both of them benched all of a sudden, and maybe they're not going to be in against Arsenal too, and in the weeks to come as well. But Ruben Dias, as soon as he came off, I think that was a major difference. Obviously, C ended up conceding, and probably could have conceded another goal. I think Aston Villa hit the crossbar towards the end of the game. But yeah, that just goes to show. And I'm very happy I didn't go for that third City player. And I'm surprised that going for Mahrez actually paid off in the end for me. Normally, those sorts of moves kind of backfire. Dropped in overall. I got 3 City and Arsenal players and no Ake in the squad. Yeah, he did come on, but just for a 1-pointer, which, yeah, it just doesn't do any good for you. 40 with Haaland triple captain. Yeah, kind of a week of frustration, it looks like, from most people. There will be some people in the chat talking about maybe a nice week for them, a major green arrow, but I don't think it's going to be that common. Right now, I'm 53 minus 4, identical to you, Kunal. I sold March for Mahrez, so it's fair. Yeah, in that kind of situation, you don't really feel anything because Mahrez still has the extra game, so he's easily going to outscore March, you would assume, and he also has some good fixtures going forwards. But the main issue with Mahrez and all Man City assets is the Champions League, and that's where things could definitely take a turn for the worse. But so far, so good with Riyad Mahrez. Yeah, exactly, Singh. Ake comes on and ruins your dreams there with Luke Shaw. Hello, Dylan. Shall I bring in... What? No, I wouldn't do that, to be honest, Barry. I wouldn't do that. 42 points, terrible gaming, says Andy. Yeah, unfortunately, I'm trying to see if there's any kind of good scores, and maybe we'll get to it later on. Title decider on Wednesday. I wouldn't say it's a title decider, but I'll be honest, after the last week, I'm kind of resigned, even more so, to Man City winning the league. Obviously, Arsenal are still in pole position, and even if they were to lose against City, which is looking likely, they still can go ahead with the extra game in hand, but it's just the most concerning things are the performances against Everton and Brentford in the first half, just not good enough. And you can't do that in the clutch end of the season. We saw Arsenal tail off last season in the pursuit of the top four. Something similar is happening now, and I would be very concerned. And honestly, Man City, I wish Arsenal had played them early in the season when Arsenal were clearly the better team. Right now, it's just not looking too good. Yeah, Ake played, so sure and sub him. Yeah, I think everyone realised by now it was kind of a late substitution by Guardiola to just rob salt in the wounds. Got Shaw, Tony and March on the bench, yep. I do feel for you, like we said earlier. I thought Haaland was on pen. Since when did that change? Triple captain fail, I guess. To be fair, Mahrez typically is a good penalty taker. I think last season he had a bit of a bad record going into this season as well. But since then, Mahrez has taken the penalties and scored them. But yeah, with just anything to do with Pep Guardiola, just you don't know what's going to happen there. But it looks like it's between Mahrez and Haaland, and this time it was Riyad Mahrez. Haaland injured, could that be why he did not take the pen? That could be a possible explanation, that is true. But I also think Mahrez has a bit of credit in the bank, despite him missing some crucial penalties for Man City in the past. Haaland hamstring/muscle problem. Yeah, that is probably, you guys are probably right about that. In the end, though, I think Haaland should be completely fine for Wednesday, but just complete frustration here. And I actually earmarked this kind of fixture against Aston Villa where City could score 3 or 4. They did. And for Haaland to only get 1 assist, which was a really good pass, by the way, and play by him. But for him not to get any goals is very frustrating, to say the least. On another day, he gets another 20-pointer, you could argue. Welcome, Aranya. Do you think Tarkowski could be rising in price anytime soon? We could go over that very soon. Remind me to do that when I go to the FPL statistics website. But yeah, it could happen. I would probably gather that closer to the Gameweek 25 deadline, that's when I would definitely expect a price rise. But right now, I don't see any reason why people should bring him in, to be quite frank. Yeah, I mean, I'm happy that Mahrez took the penalty. I would rather a Mahrez haul than Haaland, of course. No triple captaincy on him. And Riyad Mahrez is one of my differentials this week, so to speak. Yeah, I think some people did miss the deadline. I've seen quite a lot of people say that over the last week. Yeah, it's becoming a bit more common for some people. Got 46 points. I don't think that's too bad, and it's all kind of rank dependent. In certain kind of rank points, that would be a green arrow, and for some, maybe a small red. Not too bad. Sold Rashford for a hit to bring in Saka and bench Shaw. Bad decisions, honestly. Well, this is the thing with Rashford. He's in such great form, and that's why I always kind of urge people to keep him, even with blank Gameweek 25 in mind. But bringing in Saka makes sense. He's got a double now, and he's got a double in 25, and he should score more points in that time period compared to Rashford. So I do feel for you, and Leeds were honestly on top for like 80 minutes, and there you go. One moment of brilliance there from Shaw and Rashford completely changes it, and I have to say, as soon as I saw how the game panned out and Leeds were missing some key chances, I just knew Shaw was going to get a haul. For him to get 12 pointers, just even worse. Getting Mahrez for De Bruyne. This is the thing, I was urging people that had De Bruyne to just keep him and not make that sideways move. But since the restart, you have to say Mahrez has been the better option. We went through some stats in the last stream, and Mahrez has actually been significantly better in most aspects. And even in terms of creativity, such as key passes and expected assists, Mahrez is actually just behind De Bruyne. And De Bruyne is playing well in some games, even today, but he's not getting points. And ultimately, that's what you need. So Riyad Mahrez is definitely the best Man City asset besides Erling Haaland. But then we all know this could go tumbling down like Nathan Ake and Akanji today. Got 52 points, yeah, just like with Manish. I think that's a decent score. Haaland should have had 48 points if not for Gundogan and Mahrez being selfish. As a triple captain, 48 points potentially, but yeah, maybe that's a bit far-fetched, you could say. I do agree with you. This is what I mean about certain situations. It could have gone the other way on another occasion, but that's football for you sometimes, and that's the beauty of it. Sometimes it's frustrating, and with Man United, for example, like I said, they probably should have lost or drawn, but that's the sign of a good team as well. Then free hit or wildcard Gameweek 25. I'd be more inclined to free hit, but honestly, Manish, I don't know your team, so it's difficult for me to say. I'd say a free hit makes more sense with a mixture of blanks and doubles, and with the wild card, you can maybe use it a bit later on in preparation for blank Gameweek 28, double Gameweek 29, etc. Morris plus Saka for a -4 to my team is fantastic. Yeah, I did the same thing as well. And yeah, Almiron did score. I'm not surprised by that. I was backing him to get 1 goal in the next 2 game weeks between game weeks 22 and 23. He got it here against Bournemouth, and he also got the maximum bonus points. But I still think it's a worthwhile sell in 24 if you still have him. Not in your case, by the way. I mean in general, for anyone who does have him, of course, you sold him. Yeah, I sold Almiron, I think, maybe a week or 2 ago. I did get rid of Fernandes, so that wasn't too bad. My main frustration this week is benching Shaw. You know, if I brought him in for Botman in my starting 11, I could be looking at maybe 40k rank, but it is what it is. You can't get every decision right, and I was backing Newcastle for the clean sheet and for Man United to concede 1 goal. Bench Tony and Shaw. Yeah, a lot of people did that, so maybe that'll be, I don't know, a bit reassuring for you. Obviously, you'd rather have the points, but it is what it is. Got Raya and Almiron on the bench. No, that's not Raya, is it? Ray? Maybe I'm overthinking that, but either way, I guess that's a lot of points for you on your bench. Hi, I got 52 points. Yep, quite a lot of us have got a similar score this week. Even if we started Shaw, maybe benched him, etc. I think a lot of us have still got quite a similar score because the template's so strong. Bench Shaw and Andreas, so did I. Trust me, there's much worse, so it's not that bad when you compare it to others. That Newcastle clean sheet wiped out was frustrating. Yeah. It was frustrating. You know, it happened so early in the game, though. I would rather that than, you know, a late goal by Bournemouth, you know, in the dying moments of the game, at least. I'm not sure, Wasting. It's something that happened when I set up the stream earlier, and it looks pretty decent, in my opinion, anyway. Maybe you disagree, but everyone's got a different kind of colour, which is something different. Yeah, new update. Yeah, it might be. And speaking of updates, if any of you play UCL Fantasy, I covered it in my team selection video. There is a section of the game now where you click on a player and it shows you domestic form, which is actually quite nice. So if you haven't played UCL Fantasy or gone on the website for quite some time, you have a welcome surprise for you when you go on the website next time. Aranya says, today's the day. I'm glad I have the majority of my budget invested in my starting 11. In occasions like this, not having good squad depth doesn't feel that bad. That is true. The thing is with bench points is that sometimes you absolutely need them because they can come on in certain situations where there's an injury or something like that. Maybe you get a suspension and it saves you taking a hit. But I do agree with you. Sometimes having a bit of a thin squad is just really easy because you don't have bench points and you don't have to have these frustrations at the end of a week. Had Tony and Shaw on my team, says Islam. Benched him last moment for Botman and Mitrovic. Also, in the end, decided to keep KDB and not bring Mahrez. To be fair, though, those are decent moves. Mitrovic against Forest or Tony against Arsenal. Most people would back Mitrovic. I would be one of them as well. And I primarily put Tony in my starting 11 to jinx him. Look how that turned out. So I honestly do feel that, you know, feel for you because those are obviously Tony and Shaw are 2 of the best options in the game. But at the same time, I could understand benching him this week. And to be honest, you look at the situations with Tony, that goal should have been disallowed. Is even recognised by the FA and the PGMOL. And as for Luke Shaw, obviously, I wouldn't say there's anything kind of fraudulent about the clean sheet or anything, but Leeds should have definitely taken a goal or 2, but that's football for you sometimes. I'm considering upgrading Greenwood, who would be a great pick. Depends on the price point for you. Ivan Toney for me is the best third forward, but bringing him in now doesn't make sense for me. I would buy him in Game Week 26 if anything. So when I'm looking at forwards, apart from Kane and Haaland, I'd probably say maybe a Brennan Johnson could be someone to look at. I like Iheanacho a lot, and I think he's been hard done by throughout his Leicester career. He should be starting more games. He had that great run a few years ago, and he hasn't really built on that because he was benched in the following season. So I think Iheanacho could be a decent one, actually. Welcome, Jay. Always a pleasure. Sold Almiron for Mara so far, paying off. Yeah, that is a good move, and it should pay off anyway over the next 3 game weeks. But the main concern now for Mahrez is, will he start in game weeks 24 and 25? I don't think so. I think he'll be benched in at least one of those games. 46 -4, Captain Nketiah. Yeah, I have to say Nketiah's been very lacklustre in the last few games. He's been frustrating as well for Arsenal fans. And I have to say, Brentford did a great job defensively. Pinnock, you know, absolutely handled Nketiah, but I still think he could have done a bit more in games like this, and I also think Arsenal need that bit of a spark in the final third to get over the line in these games too. I did Bruno plus Martinelli for Mahrez and Saka. I did the exact same moves as you, and yep, it is paying off so far, and it should be good transfers in the long term, which is the most important thing. And Martinelli a bit fortunate to be subbed off just after the 60th minute mark. It seemed like the ball was never going to go out of play, and he was, you know, he basically stayed on the pitch just in time for that 3-pointer. Welcome, Seb. Thank you very much. I debated Mahrez or Odegaard for Martinelli all week. I went for Odegaard. To be honest, I would have done the same thing. Odegaard also has a double in 25. Don't forget that. And he's also nailed on to start in 24 and 25. I can't say that about Mahrez. So still time for that yet. Yep, nice screen. That's good to see, Dutta. And yeah, I think around 50 points would have been decent for most of us in terms of getting a rank rise. Sold short to Gabriel, bad. It is a good move, though, for Gameweek 25, but that's the problem sometimes with being too focused on these doubles and blanks. And I've said this before, and that's why at one point I wasn't really too keen on, you know, really getting transfers in for certain blanks and doubles, and that has helped me sometimes, just focusing on the single Gameweek players who are doing a job for me. But I've also benched Shaw. A lot of us have benched Shaw as well, but that didn't, you know, I think Shaw alone was the reason why I was on a red arrow before Mahrez. So yeah, it is what it is. 65 points is really good, Junior. Really good score. 58 minus 4, decent score as well. Captain Haaland, though, still, most of us did, so you're not really gaining or losing anything from it. Obviously, you probably do think now, maybe I should have captained Mahrez or something, but it's very easy to say that, you know, looking back. I don't think that's that bad. Obviously, I've got 20 points on my bench and I'm frustrated, but 16 points on the bench, you know, I tend to get, I'd say, around 10 points on my bench. So I wouldn't be too frustrated with that, I guess. Then again, maybe I can't talk because even just that 12 pointer by Shaw is really killing me right now. Triple captain Rico Lewis. Oh, that's the thing with Rico Lewis. I actually thought he'd start today and be benched against Arsenal. Yeah, that's the thing with City defenders and primarily Rico Lewis, who is not nailed at all. I'm on 10 points, saved the day. I think we've all had like a certain player that saved us. Maybe Luke Shaw for some people, Riyad Mahrez for me. Some people maybe had Tony as well. There's always that one player that maybe helped us. My rank after bonus is what you see on screen. It's 77,000 in the world, but this is before substitutions, and we'll update that once the week is finished. But yeah, this is my updated rank according to livefpl.net. Valverde or Musiala, we'll talk more about this in Champions League fantasy streams. We've got one in 2 days' time. But the player I would prefer usually is Musiala. However, I'm not so sure if he'll start in the round of 16. Bench Shaw and brought on Botman. So did I. Kind of what I did is bring in Tony for Shaw, and it should have been Botman in the end looking back. But look, there was a good reason to do that, and yeah, honestly, like we covered already, United should have conceded. They didn't. Sometimes these things happen. And of course, Bournemouth have been pretty decent, you know, in the last week or two, but you would still would have backed Newcastle for the clean sheet. Yeah, so thoughts about Joao Felix. I'm not all of a sudden going to say we should buy him, but he looked impressive. Obviously, took that chance really well. A great goal. Fantastic pass by Enzo Fernandez too. And that could be a really good combination going forwards. But my point still stands about Chelsea. They don't create enough and they still can be very flat. Of course, that was a great goal. You see a moment of quality in terms of the pass and the finish. But you need to see more from that in terms of Chelsea players. If you are looking for a forward, especially to replace Tony, I think Felix could be decent in the time for the time being. However, going into Gameweeks 26 and 27, what would be my ideal front three? Haaland, Harry Kane and Ivan Toney. However, behind those three, I think Felix can maybe make a case to be a genuine consideration too. What's the 14th of February plan, boys? I will talk about this more in the deadline stream on Tuesday. You can see my team selection video, which I uploaded on Friday too. And I actually have a few 14th of February players, but that could change. And that includes Spurs assets after the game yesterday against Leicester. I think that's just kind of put some common sense into me. I'm not so sure if I'm going to go ahead with that now. Will Bueno start at home to Bournemouth? Like I said, going into this game week, I'm just not so sure. My gut feeling would be no, and it looks like he's lost his place, but you just don't know sometimes. And originally under Lopetegui, it looked like Ait Nouri was never going to play as a left-back in a back four, but he has been in recent games. So let's wait and see what the situation is going forwards, but my initial reaction would be, I don't think he'll start. And if you are going for a Wolves defender for Game Week 25, I'd definitely go for Kilman, maybe Craig Dawson as well. Harsh Datani says 60 points and I bench Tony. Good, pretty good. Also, I did Captain Saka, lack of buzz with Haaland. Well, that could end up paying off. I mean, I think Haaland will start in the second game, and City right now would be the favourites considering the form of both teams as well. But still, I think Saka captain is a decent choice, and you've got a good score so far. Darwin, Tony, Trippier, Cucurella, which two to bench? I definitely wouldn't bench Tony. So if you need to bench one forward, one defender, I'd bench Darwin, and I would also bench Cucurella, despite him having the better fixture than Trippier. Hi Dylan, what free from Liverpool would you bring in? I mean, if you're chasing, fair enough. I honestly wouldn't recommend that, but if you are going for a free, it would be Salah, probably Darwin Nunez, and then I'd probably go for a defender because a triple up in the Liverpool attack would just, I wouldn't recommend that at all. then I'd go for a defender like Trent, I guess. Yeah, so that would be my ideal triple up right now. Tony 9, Shaw 9. Oh, mate, it gets worse. Shaw's not on a 9-pointer. He's on a 12-pointer. He got 3 bonus points today, so yeah, just forget about that, unfortunately. 60 points and I benched Tony. Yeah, we went through that. Who got bonus points in the City game? Well, Mara's got 2. We might as well check that. Why not? So if we check Game Week 23, let's see. The bonus points. So Rodri got all 3 and he did get man of the match. So I think that's fairly deserved. And then you have Mahrez on 2 and Watkins on 1 bonus point. So there's your answer. I'll leave it on screen for a little bit more just so you can see it for yourself. Quick switch Tony to Darwin for the blank and switch back after? I'd say so. Obviously, Darwin has the double as well. Yeah, I think that makes complete sense, and I'd bring Tony straight back in as soon as you can, I think, ahead of Game Week 26 or 27. Rodri 3 and Watkins 1. Yeah, there you go. Thank you very much. I triple captain Haaland. A lot of people did. I would have done it as well if I didn't use it on Rashford already. I didn't. I was too wrong switching Botman to Shaw last minute. I did something similar, but with Tony instead. I lost out on 3 points in that situation, but I should have benched Botman, so I'm in the same boat as you two. What's your plan for Game Week 25? The same as I discussed in my recent videos. So right now, my plan is to roll the transfer in 24 and then bring in a Everton and Wolves defender ahead of 25. So we might as well go through that now, just to recap. So Game Week 24, this would be my lineup. I might even go for a captaincy on Harry Kane or Rashford. I'm actually generally considering that. Then in Game Week 25, I can make 2 moves, which includes getting rid of Shaw and Botman for Tarkowski and Kilman, and then play a 4-4-2 formation. And my captain would probably be an Arsenal player. However, I need to see an improvement in the Arsenal ranks because in the last 2 games, it just hasn't been good enough. And even in the FA Cup against City, they were very flat in that game as well. And things have gone downhill since then. If Haaland doesn't play against Arsenal, is it possible for my bench to show up? No. In a double game week, if a player features, even for just 1 minute, that's it. They're not going to be benched. It doesn't matter if it's a double game week. It doesn't really matter. It's still part of the same game week. As a result, Haaland will still stay in your team. And if you captain him, he remains your captain. Bench Tony. I bench Shaw, so if you started Shaw, maybe that'll help you a little bit. But we've all had a bit of bench points, it looks like. Sell Martinelli for Trossard? No, I have to say Trossard has looked really good so far in his career at Arsenal. Bit lackluster against Everton, and to be fair, most people were. But against United, against City, and also there, yesterday against Brentford, he's been very, very impressive, and he changed the game yesterday. And I have to say, he was the best passer as well. He was making some great, defense-splitting passes. And it's not a bad option there, but still with Arsenal players, I'd rather go for Saka, Odegaard, and then potentially an Arsenal defender, and Nketiah, of course. So Trossard's decent, but I would still be very concerned about his minutes. Martinelli could still start in Game Week 23 and 24. So I'm not so sure about that yet. 30 points on my bench, as I showed you before, but still a minor green arrow. Wow, you have to be quite happy with that to get green arrow considering the circumstances, but 30 points on your bench, I mean, that is definitely tough to take. I think I saw your bench boost, though, and no regrets there for you, really. Best defenders for blank double Game Week 25. I'd say an Arsenal defender like Zinchenko. I still like a Man City defender. The problem is getting the right one. But for me, the main options would be Zinchenko, Tarkowski and Kilman. I think those are my 3 favourites. Then you can maybe go for a Liverpool defender, but I just don't really see the clean sheets for them right now. Thank you for asking, Evan. It's all good. What about you? Thank you very much for asking. United did perform very bad. Maguire was horrible, almost cost United. Yeah, there were some passes he made which just led to opportunities. And yeah, like I said, look, it's a sign of a good team to get over the line when you're playing poorly. And United has some real quality in certain positions, but yeah, I have to say Leeds should have done much better. And the same goes for the game against Arsenal a few months ago. They should have won that game, but because of the lack of quality, especially in the final third, it cost them. Botman or Cucurella? To start next week, I'd probably favour Cucurella. And if you see here, in terms of FPL.team, I think we briefly went over it quickly. I've got both of them on my bench right now. I've got Cucurella first sub and Botman second, but that might change and I might put Andres Pereira second. So a few things could change in that regard, but in terms of the starting 11 and moves, I don't think much will. And I think the main concern for me, apart from maybe the benching order, is the captaincy. I might go away from Haaland, and I was already thinking about this before Game Week 23, so don't worry about that. Maybe a Haaland haul against Arsenal would just completely change my mind, and I'll just settle for the Haaland captaincy there as well. So let's go back to my points so far, and this hasn't taken into account the bonus points for the games today, including Man City versus Aston Villa, which just happened, and also Man United against Leeds. A 12-pointer by Luke Shaw on my bench, Andres Perez 6-pointer, 20 points overall there, and these things can happen sometimes. Oh, 21 points actually, which is even worse, yeah. I put Shaw on my bench, so did I, last second as well. There could be wasting, I'm not so sure. Like I talked about in my team selection video, if people do want, then I will try to get another video out tomorrow, maybe a best differentials video, but if not, it's just a deadline stream on Tuesday, and that's that. Glad we both went for Mahrez, Dylan. Yeah, you've got to look at the positives, and you can't get every single decision spot on, but Mahrez was a really good punt, and it has paid off so far. I had Walker, and he played the full 90. Yeah. The problem with City, though, is only one clean sheet in the last 7 home games. Only benched, of course, but almost 90k up so far. That's a really good rank rise, and yeah, I think a lot of us benched Tony as well, and I was going to do the same thing. KDB is becoming a troll for his price. Did not return as much since Gameweek 17. Yep, even the likes of Salah, who's been awful as well, has scored more points in that time period, and De Bruyne has had more games. So yeah, it is very frustrating owning Kevin De Bruyne. Is this a good use of your fantasy team? The simple answer is yes. I would be a bit concerned about double Benfica defence. They have a lot of injuries at the back. And look, I can understand why you're doing it because of the opposition. And they've been really off form. It's not a bad shout. I would maybe rather go for Antonio Silva instead of Otamendi. But still, looks pretty good. And as for the rest, I have no objections really. I've got a similar midfield and attack. Yeah, it looks fairly solid. I think Leipzig could score against Man City, especially in the home fixture. So I'm not so sure about Ruben Dias. But honestly, really good team. No way I can see Chilwell finally starting. Oh, yeah, he has to. Yeah, that is a good point with Cucurella. And yeah, he's a pretty bad signing so far, to say the least. Thank you, Seb Gold. Shaw 12 and Tony 9, both on my bench. Yep. I'm pretty sure at least 6 or 7 people on this chat have said the same thing. And some people even had March on top of that. So imagine the pain there. Do you think Odegaard is still a good option? Yes. I still think it's a good option, but in certain, at least in the recent weeks, there definitely has been a drop-off for Arsenal. And Odegaard, I think, didn't play too badly yesterday. He was probably the best Arsenal attacker. He was at the heart of everything they did. But having said that, I still think Odegaard is kind of maybe reverting back to the kind of pre-assist, the lack of FPL returns as well that he was doing at the beginning maybe of last season as well. I'm not playing fan team, only UCL fantasy. Sold De Gea for a -4 hit and benched De Gea and triple captain Haaland. And benched De Gea. I'm not so sure what you mean there. If you sold De Gea and you benched him, but yeah, triple captain Haaland was definitely frustrating. And selling goalkeepers for a hit, I always say this, it's just not worth it. And some people want to get rid of Kepa for Ederson. Even if Ederson keeps a clean sheet against Arsenal, I still don't think it's a great move, especially for a hit. So try not to take hits for goalkeepers. I did it this season for, I think, Nick Pope at home to Bournemouth. It didn't pay off. He conceded in that game as well. I think it was Gameweek 9. So yeah. Long story short, do not take hits for goalkeepers. It's probably a good lesson for the future too. Yeah, I mean, honestly, Liverpool were kind of seen by many as being favoured, especially last season. But yeah, long story short, the referees are awful. Yesterday there were 4 or 5 bad decisions in all the games. Today there was another one. It just happens every single day and week, really. Hey, Dylan, is it worth doing a -4 to bring in Felix next week for Nonto? I'd go back to a 3-4-3. I do think the hit is worth it because I'm not a huge fan of Nonto anyway. He's a good player, but in terms of FPL, I wouldn't really back him. I think Felix will pay off that hit, so as a result, it's a worthwhile hit to take. But ultimately, I would try to get Tony in 26 or 27 if you don't have him already. So yeah, I think it's worthwhile, but there are better forwards in the long term. What's your take on Kane after Gameweek 25? Look, I know he was really disappointing yesterday, and I think there's a big, Spurs have had another blow. Not only Hugo Lloris a week ago, but now Bentancur could be out for up to 6 to 8 months. I can't stress how much of a bad injury that is for Spurs. Apart from Harry Kane, if you ask any Spurs fan, they will say Bentancur is the last player they would want injured. And I think that could be the nail in the coffin for the top 4 hopes. It's that bad. And that could also impact Kane's prospects of getting goals because Spurs will even, struggle even more in the future too. But having said all of that, I'm still happy to keep Kane beyond Gameweek 25. Even if Nunez has a double and whichever other forward you want to name, I still think Kane is the second best striker in the game. Yeah, I think a lot of us do, but look, we all have bench points this week. We all maybe had a bit of frustrations with maybe a move we've made. Yeah, the important thing is to maybe take a rest, maybe recharge your batteries, and then move on next week. And if you're not enjoying the game, then it's just not worth playing. I have Shaw, Rico, Trippier, White. Can you help me choose two to start for Game Week 24 and the best choice? I would start Shaw, and I probably would still start Trippier, despite facing Liverpool. I think Maddison's a buy. Yeah, I actually mentioned him last stream. Someone was asking for differentials, and in the midfield, the only one I mentioned was Maddison. I really like him as an FPL asset. Of course, that does help with his great returns yesterday, but honestly, if Maddison can stay fit, he's one of the best midfielders in the game. Thank you, John. I appreciate it, and maybe I'll see you on Tuesday as well for the deadline stream. You think I can start Bueno and Patterson in Game Week 25? Well, Patterson is back in training, which is great news, but is he a guarantee to start in 25? It really depends. I think he just needs those minutes under his belt in 23 and 24, at least one of those game weeks. My gut feeling is that he won't start in 25, or at least not both games in 25. As for Bueno, at the moment, it's difficult for me to say if he's going to start or not, with Aït-Nouri taking his place, and I think it might not be worth it, and a move to a Kilman or a Tarkowski could just be the safety net for you there, Rania. I don't want to transfer out players like Rashford and Shaw just to get a playing 11. I do agree with you. I mean, I'm looking to maybe get rid of Shaw in 25, but the idea would maybe to bring him back in 26 or 27 as well, but I do agree with you there. Or even start one game of the two. Yeah, I think there's a chance for both Bueno and Patterson to start one game of the two, but not both. Oh yeah, definitely not. In UCL Fantasy as well, I think that is just a foregone conclusion as well. I didn't see it wasting. I think it was just a joke anyway, but I think Mudryk definitely needs a PR team, and he needs to be a bit more careful with what he posts on social media. Who should I bench, Bruno or Nketiah? Honestly, it's a close call, but I'd rather bench Nketiah because Bruno faces Leicester at home, who have improved recently. They've scored 8 goals in the last 2 games, but they're still conceding a lot, and Man United are in great form. Bruno has been a bit underwhelming in the last 2 games. Should have scored today. Very lackluster in the home game against Leeds, but I'd still start him over Nketiah. I have 21 in my first 11. I have 24 on my bench. That is one of the worst things that can happen to you, having more points on your bench than your starting 11. That has happened to me on occasion, in certain parts of the game week. That will obviously change as the week progresses, but I do feel for you there. I mean, bench Shaw. Yeah, so did I. And a lot of people did, trust me. Also, Maddison and Sarr and Tarkowski as general players for the next couple of game weeks. All good purchases. Now, let's not forget, Everton's double in 25 isn't great, but you can start him there whilst a lot of key defenders like Botman, Trippier, Shaw will blank. So he's a good transfer in for the time being. As for Jose Sarr, he's a good long-term goalkeeper with a double, and I think Wolves have been looking really good in recent games. And as for Maddison, he's one of the best FPL assets when he's fit, and he can just get a run going. So all of them are good transfers. My favourite of them would be Maddison. Do you think Rashford triple captain gang still run or already won? I don't want to say anything in the case that I jinx it and Haaland does really well against Arsenal, which he could do. But yeah, I think Rashford triple captain did look better. And I'm actually quite surprised that the effective ownership is actually identical. So Rashford triple captain was really popular last week for sure. What is your lineup going to look like in Game Week 25? I showed it earlier in the stream. So it'd be a 4-4-2 formation. I'd bring in Tarkowski and Kilman. And I would basically bench Rashford, Trippier, Ward and Ivan Toney. Crazy that Newcastle only losses from the Liverpool added time goal. Yes, and they were rather fortunate other games, I will say. Such as the Arsenal one, in my opinion, in terms of they should have had a penalty or 2 conceded. But yeah, Newcastle are arguably the toughest team in the league to beat, but they also get a lot of draws, and that is why they're not in the title race right now. What happened to Bentancur? He got an injury in the game against Leicester. I think it's, I'm not sure exactly what injury it is. I think it's a broken ligaments or something like that, or damaged cruciate ligaments. I need to double check that, but it's around that sort of thing. Yeah, knee injury. I think the ligaments are done. Trippier or White for Game Week 24, says Kaftan. Trippier still for me. I triple captain Haaland. I am regretting it now. I would be too, to be fair, but it's still early on and he's fine for Wednesday, surely. I have a benching dilemma next week and whoever I bench will haul for sure. It does look like that, and that's why there's pros and cons behind having too much squad depth. I think he's got maybe a tightness or something, a small knock. He should be fine. I wouldn't be concerned. Is there press conferences for UCL Fantasy? Yes, I believe there is, but we mainly get them on the Monday and Tuesday. That's when we get the kind of embargo quotes and stuff. So yeah, in Tuesday we always get some news or something. But Monday I think there should be some as well. I might be wrong about that though. Bench one of Odegaard, Mahrez, or Matoma for next week. I'd probably bench Odegaard from those three. Yeah, maybe. Out of those, it's a tough call, but I think I would bench him. Ben White replacement or keep? I'd keep him for now. I still think he starts in 24 and in both games in 25. However, it would not surprise me if Tomiyasu started against City, just as a more defensive fullback, and Ben White has been off it recently. Very consistent, 7, 8 out of 10 every week until, I'd say, the Everton game. Considering Ben Mee as a possible option for Game Week 26 onwards, thoughts? Yeah, honestly, he's one of the highest scoring defenders in the game. He's got one of the most goals as well amongst defenders. It's a really good shout. And if you don't have Raya, I think Ben Mee's just the best defender to cover them. So really good transfer, I think. But obviously, that's something to wait for right now. Do you see Everton winning against Liverpool? They could. I see a draw, potentially. But look, Liverpool, if they can just get their act together, of course, they can start building a little run together, maybe challenge for top 4. But right now, my answer would be no to that. I don't think Everton will win, but they have a chance, of course. Fair play on Mahrez. Can't believe I benched Shaw and have Andreas on my bench fuming. So do I, though. And that's what I mean in terms of you can't get every decision right. And with Mahrez, I was deliberating on it a lot. I even missed this price rise the other day. But I wanted to make, I wanted to be really sure about my moves and how that would impact Game Weeks 24 and 25. In the end, I went for Saka and Mahrez, and I don't regret it so far. Unfortunately, Luke Shaw is a different story. Kilman or Tarkowski long term? I'd say Kilman. The problem with that, with saying Kilman, is that he could blank in 28 whilst Tarkowski will play in 28, even though he faces Chelsea, which you might argue is a tough fixture or not. But I still prefer Kilman. He still has a chance of blanking in 28, and I think Wolves have a better defensive team. Iheanacho's doing pretty well. Hope Rodgers won't be unjust to him. I don't think he will. I think he'll learn from that mistake, and you can't bench Iheanacho with the form he's in. Oh, you're keeping Tony for 25? I think so. Look, I can make a move to a Darwin Nunez or something like that, but I don't really see the need to do it. And I'm happy to keep Tony for 26 and 27. Yeah, ACL. I'll need to double check that. You'd start Trippier over White? Yeah, I think so. I'm suffering from a broken heart. We'll be out for a few weeks. Don't worry, without malice. When you come back, we'll be here for you as well. Trust me, I wouldn't say down, but I was very frustrated with benching Luke Shaw. Shaw and Andreas on the bench hurting now? Well, I'd rather have their points than not, but I don't really regret the decisions. I regret maybe benching Botman or starting Botman over Shaw, but I mean, what else was I going to do? I'm not going to start Andreas or Shaw over Kane when he's facing Leicester. Definitely not. That decision I don't regret. I think Botman was maybe a mistake, though, on my part, but the rest, I don't really... There's nothing else I would have changed going back. Start 2, Trippier, White, James. Good question. I would start Reece James and Trippier. I start Ake ahead of Shaw. Well, I would have done the same thing, and Ake was the most nailed-on defender. And lo and behold, Pep Roulette strikes again. Botman or Shaw or Mitrovic. To start next week, it would be Shaw. Yes, Jana, we will stream on Tuesday. That is the aim, of course, unless something drastically changes. But the plan is to stream on Tuesday around... What we're talking about. I think the deadline, I need to double check this and then set it up. But around 5 p.m. UK time, I think we'll be streaming. And of course, you'll see it scheduled pretty early on. If it's the knee, then ACL or MCL. I think MCL is more dangerous long term. Yeah, I'll double check that just to make sure. But I've seen something like that. Either ACL or MCL. I'm not sure exactly which. I might have been wrong about that. Big derby for us tomorrow. Surely Anfield will help in some way. Yeah, I think that's the main reason why I don't think Everton will win, because it's at Anfield, even though they got a win a few years ago in the COVID season. Yeah, I think you're right. Liverpool would have the edge, of course, but I would not be surprised if Everton could frustrate them. Look, if I had to lean one way, it would be a Liverpool win, but would it be enough to, buy a Salah or Darwin Nunez in time for Game Week 25? Not really. Imagine this Liverpool play against Madrid. Yeah, and Madrid have slipped up a bit. They lost to Mallorca recently, but Madrid have been on fire offensively. And I think Liverpool will score at Anfield, but I only see a Real Madrid win right now. So is Mahrez ahead of Haaland for penalty kicks? Time to sell Haaland for Mahrez? Well, no. I definitely would not sell Haaland for Mahrez. Haaland's more nailed on. He's still going to score more points until the end of the season. But Mahrez is looking incredible since the restart, and sometimes it just goes to show, because even, I've had a bit of a bias to, against him, for example, because of his history of being a troll and being benched when he's on a run. This season, he's getting a consistent run of starts. There's no Jesus, there's no Sterling to kind of maybe challenging for minutes as well. So he is the kind of he's the most natural winger in the City squad, and that's why maybe this season he's getting more starts, at least since the restart. I don't know why I can't see my leagues in UCL Fantasy. I have the team and the points, but it looks like the leagues have been wiped out. When I last checked, Aranya, it was all fine. But yeah, maybe when I go back on the website, I can give you an update on that. But maybe someone else in the chat can also put their input as well. Best Liverpool defender, probably Trent. It's between him and Robertson, but they're just not worth that money, simply put. Kilman or Dawson? I'd still prefer Kilman just because he's more nailed on. I know Dawson just came into the side, and I think he has more goal threat than Kilman. But what I like about Max Kilman is his bonus points potential. I think that's what kind of sways me towards him. Thiago out for 4 weeks with Madrid soon. Every time a player returns, yeah, Liverpool have been very unfortunate. It's kind of strange because Liverpool either get no injuries or they get everyone injured at the same time. There's no in between with them. And yeah, Thiago's a big blow. He's the only quality midfielder Liverpool possess right now. And that's going to be just another reason why I back Madrid to go through. Top Fernandes replacements. Yeah, you've already got 3 of the key ones ahead of Game Week 25. I don't really like any Everton or Wolves midfielder for that blank/double game week. So I'd say Salah in time for Game Week 25, but that's only because he has a double. Otherwise, I would just go for it elsewhere. I'm not sure about that way saying. It might be a bit less than that, but if there is 1K viewers, I'll try my best to be prepared. It's difficult to answer, especially when there's a lot of spamming sometimes, which does get frustrating. But yeah, hopefully it will be a good stream and we can go for as many questions and people as possible. Ake out for Wolves Liverpool defender. Yeah. And look, this is the thing. Ake could be benched against Arsenal, but start against Nottingham Forest and Bournemouth because he won't be in the Champions League starting 11. So that could backfire. There's no right or wrong here. It's so difficult to kind of decipher when is the best time to go in and off these kind of City defenders and players. But I think ultimately a Wolves defender would be what I'm looking at in for Ake. This season, my worst nightmare. My aim is to be 100k, and I just can't go beyond the million area. And then, of course, as a Liverpool fan, yeah, well, look, maybe last season you were in a really good rank, and of course Liverpool were on the cusp of true greatness with the quadruple. Football's like that sometimes, and how many years have Arsenal been poor? Now they're doing pretty well, but then now they're going back to their dumb old ways. I do feel for you there, but honestly, there's much more to FPL anyway, and it's a bad week. It might be a bad season so far, but things can change so quickly. Even in my case, I was 1.3 million, before the restart. Now I'm doing pretty well, so things can definitely change for the better. You just need a bit of luck sometimes, and also maybe just timing is the key thing. And let's wait and see if you can do it over the next few weeks too. Wasting says same, but Rashford triple captain gain. Me 1 million rank and currently set at 1 million rank now. Yeah, that just kind of sums up this season as well. Captain says, should I sell Shaw on Game Week 25 for a double Game Week player if I have 11 starting players without Shaw? No, if you have 11 starting players anyway and you're happy with that starting 11, I'd probably keep Shaw. I'd still like him until the end of the season potentially, so I don't think there's a need to do that. Just in case there is 1K viewers on Tuesday, I would love to ask, what's your thoughts on Enzo in UCL Fantasy? Yeah, that is true. I think Enzo is obviously more desirable in UCL Fantasy with the ball recoveries, and he's been doing a lot for Chelsea, especially in this defensive midfield role. So, yeah, I think he could definitely be one to consider, but I'm still not really looking at him. And with maybe a lack of forward options, if Mbappe is out, there are reports that he's going to be back in. That gives you a lot of money in the bank, and you would rather go for Bellingham, maybe Joao Mario, a City midfielder, Salah, Vinicius Jr., etc. So there might not be a space for Enzo Fernandez, but if you need a kind of budget midfielder, I think Enzo's a decent shout. Yeah. Kane or Tony? Still Kane for me. He doesn't blank in 25 either. And in 27, Tony obviously doubles. It's a really good double as well. 2 away fixtures. But yeah, for now, I'd say Harry Kane still. Ake plus KDB plus Almiron out for Wolves, Everton defender plus Mahrez plus 7.5/8 million midfielder for a -4 hit. I probably would go for it, but as I said earlier, Ake and KDB could start in the Premier League in 24 and 25 and could do well. Long term, though, I think those moves pay off, and I would do it, Sing. All good. And in terms of 7.58 million midfielder, That's a tough one. It's a really tough one because apart from Saka and Odegaard, I'm not so sure what other midfield I'd go for right now. Mahrez did well, but let me just get this question up again. But he's always misses an unmissable chance each game. Well, he's not the greatest finisher, you could argue, but he's a quality player, of course, and you can't complain about 12-pointer for me. I'm quite happy with it. Have you tried ChatGPT? Maybe it'll start predicting our FPL points. I don't think so. I don't think I've tried that before. I have a few bots set up by, I think, the likes of Weiseng in the Discord server. I think it's called FPL AI, but I haven't tried ChatGPT. Walker played the full game today. Do you think he'll start? Well, logically, I thought he would start against Arsenal anyway, a more defensive fullback up against Martinelli / Trossard. So I still think he'll start, but honestly, with Pep, I can't tell you, honestly. 47 minus 4 points with 27 points on the bench. Yeah, 27 points on the bench is quite poor. Yeah, I think Jorginho would have been a good sub. You know, just slow down the game, control it, keep possession of the ball, 1-0 up. But yeah, I think Arteta got things wrong a little bit yesterday. You know, throughout the season, I can't really fault him for much. Maybe the game management against United at Old Trafford, especially at 1-1, and also yesterday against Brentford. But yeah, I'm not so sure. I think Jorginho would have been a decent sub, but then again, I don't know. It's just difficult to tell. Brentford deserved the draw, even if maybe it was under the wrong circumstances. Is Trippier sell for the next 3? Well, I think it is worth selling Trippier now. If there was ever time to sell him, it's Game Week 24, but I still don't mind keeping him, and he's still a good one to start in 24, and also you would want him back in 26, of course. But yes, the simple answer is this is the best time to sell him if you need kind of that extra player and form an 11 for Game Week 25. Best Botman replacement, I'd say Kilman. Kilman or Tarkovsky, and I'd go for Kilman. Thank you, Ori. Nice to see you succeed at least. I'll try to be here for Tuesday and help with the stream. Thank you, mate. I appreciate that. And, well, I definitely want to say Arsenal succeeding because, yeah, it's not looking good at the moment. And City only 3 points behind. They win on Wednesday. They go top, albeit with an extra game. But, yeah, not looking good for Arsenal right now. Best Wolves and Everton midfielder for Game Week 25. My favourite, oddly enough, from Wolves would be Adama Traore. And from Everton, probably Iwobi. It's between him and McNeil. I'm just not a big fan of those options. Best 8 attackers for you. Saka, Odegaard, Mahrez, Rashford, and still Mitoma, I think. Thinking about budget as well. Front 3, I would say Harry Kane, Haaland, and Tony long term. But of course, if you need that kind of attacker for Game Week 25, then I'd go for Darwin Núñez for now, but I'm not a big fan. Thank you, Adil. See you very soon as well. Weiseng, yeah, I don't think I saw that comment. So what about no Chelsea asset? Cancelo, Musiala, Sane, Mahrez, Kane, Valverde. Well, I have covered some of these assets in my team selection video, such as Kane, who features in that draft, Sane as well, and Cancelo. So I have covered all of that. I also have Kepa as a Balaga in that draft. So things have changed from my original, drafts, videos and stuff like that. Valverde is a kind of odd one. He's been scoring more goals this season. I think he's got 10. And he's decent for ball recovery sometimes, but I think there are better options. So I wouldn't go for him. Nkuku's just come back from an injury. He's facing Man City, who he scored a hat-trick against, I think, last year in a 6-3 victory. But still not that convinced. I think, once again, better midfielders at our disposal. The thing with Kane now is Mbappe, it looks like he's going to be in the squad against Bayern Munich, and Messi will also be available. So I'm not so sure if Kane will be as appealing, especially with Bentancur out. Lloris is out for 8 weeks, I think, as well. Not to mention, I think Spurs are just very iffy, and even against an off-form AC Milan side, I would not be surprised if they struggled. So the way I see it, Haaland and Osimhen are the best forwards to get in the game, and if Mbappe's fit, of course, he's probably the best option in the game, period. But apart from those, I'd be looking at Kane, Messi, and also Lautaro Martinez. So Harry Kane's one of the best forwards in the game. Mahrez, he's probably my favourite Man City midfielder to get right now. But then what does that mean for the Premier League? He's not going to start every single game, surely. Leroy Sané hasn't been in great form in the Bundesliga, but still fairly decent, and he's the best from a UCL fantasy perspective. Musiala, I'm not so sure about his minutes going forward. Cancelo, I think he's the best Bayern Munich defender, along with Upamecano, and Cancelo has that attacking threat. As for Chelsea assets, I don't think they're absolutely necessary. I mean, they're still, I think, they haven't won the last 9 away games. They face Dortmund up next. I wouldn't be that confident. So I think one asset is enough. I wouldn't go for 2 or 3, and definitely not 4 right now. Triple captain Haaland, and it's not looking good. Hoping for a hat-trick against Arsenal? Definitely not. I hope he blanks, whatever happens. But at the moment, I think he'll score 1 or 2 goals against Arsenal, unfortunately. Also, is Bueno nailed for Game Week 25? No, he definitely isn't nailed right now. If you want a nailed defender from Wolves, Kilman and Dawson are your best bets. It's not just him, though. It's Odegaard, who I think was decent against Brentford, but very poor against Everton. Zinchenko was awful yesterday. Xhaka's playing poorly as well. Ben White. There's a lot of off-form players all of a sudden. Martinelli too. Your guess is as good as mine, mate. I said it last season when Arsenal were constantly having bad decisions every game. Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. VAR is decent when it's used by the right people, but if they can't even remember to draw the lines and stuff, just forget about it. I don't know why Tierney's not been used. Well, yesterday, I think he should have come on, and, you know, I think in certain games he's better than Zinchenko. Do you think a draw on Wednesday is good enough for Arsenal? Well, it's better than a loss, of course, but I think if Arsenal really want to win this league, they need to win on Wednesday. And, you know, they'll probably lose at the Etihad, so a win at the Emirates is really crucial. So 3 out of 6 points in the kind of double header against City is the bare minimum for me. No, I don't watch the Super Bowl, to be quite frank. I want to say it's a cheat code because over 10% of managers have him already, and a lot of people have heard of him. He's having a great season, but yeah, he's doing really well. He's really cheap, and that's one of the reasons why a lot of us will have so much money in the bank. First option for Liverpool, probably Salah. If money is no issue and you want to maybe go off De Bruyne, it's between him and Darwin Núñez. I just don't really like the defenders, even more so because Liverpool don't keep clean sheets. My captain was Mahrez. Wow, really good, mate. Fair play. I was briefly considering the likes of Saka and Mahrez for captain, and even Odegaard, but just didn't go for it in the end, and that might have been costly. So I really like that. Should I bring Joao Felix for Tony this for Gaming 24 or 25? If there's any forward I'd buy right now, other than Kane and Haaland, yes, it would be probably Felix. But I have to say, in 26 or 27, bring Tony back in. I think he's a far better option than Felix in the long term, definitely. Is Jesus coming back? Early next month, I believe, but there's nothing guaranteed. Arsenal need him desperately. As for Balogun future, difficult to tell right now, but I think he will get another shot next season or maybe the year after. He's doing really well in Ligue 1. There's no real need to maybe disrupt his development. Obviously, maybe Arsenal could have been selfish, brought him back in, especially with Jesus being injured, but I don't think that would have been good for his career and also in the long term. Hi Dylan, who's the best out of Arrizabalaga, Sanchez or Raya? Tough question. So if we go through the fixtures for Game Week 24, it will be a close call there. I think I'd go for Kepa. It is a close one, and I think all of them could keep a clean sheet, to be fair. But, yeah, if I had to go for one, yeah, it's probably Kepa. And also he's got the highest ceiling for me, so Kepa would be my answer. Any idea why Southwick Campbell wasn't given? Honestly, no. That's the simple answer. Imagine you're the manager of Gakpo plus Núñez duo. Yeah, no, it's just not looking good right now for Liverpool. And in FPL-wise, I think one's enough. I just wouldn't want to go for a double or even triple up from Liverpool in Game Week 25, which sounds mad. Will you loan out Nketiah instead of Balogun next season? Not necessarily, but I don't think Nketiah is good enough to lead the line for Arsenal week in, week out. He can do a job in certain games. He did against United. I gave him his props, but against City in the FA Cup, missed a really big chance. Against Everton, had a few half chances. Should have taken one of them, in my opinion. Newcastle as well earlier, I think, in the year. And not to mention, very, very lackluster and ineffective against Brentford. And it also impacts Martinelli too. Was thinking of Martinelli out for Odegaard, Game Weeks 24 and 25. I'm not so sure anymore. Yeah, I can see why, but I'm very concerned about Martinelli in the future and his minutes. I think if there's any Arsenal player that will miss out in the next game, it will be Martinelli. Although, looking at the fixture and the way it could pan out, you would say that kind of fixture favours him and suits the way he plays. Let me just show you a few more screens before going back to your questions. And this could be a bit of a short stream anyway today. We've been going on for just around an hour. And remember, on Tuesday, there will be a deadline stream for UCL Fantasy, so be sure to tune in for that. So if we check the fixture ticker, not much has changed. Arsenal are top, Everton second, Wolves third, Brighton fourth, and Liverpool fifth. Chelsea just behind there as well. You've got Spurs around mid-table, and same with Man City, who are actually quite low down here. And literally just last week, going into Game Week 23, they were second. So the bottom 5 include the likes of United, Newcastle still. So this is all pretty much the same as always. We'll discuss this as well, probably in the deadline stream too. Predicted points for Game Week 24. Haaland is on top yet again. Rashford is second. Harry Kane third. I'm looking at one of those 3 for the captaincy in Game Week 24. I'll discuss this in the team selection video and throughout the week. Mahrez is also up there. Same with De Bruyne, Bruno Fernandes, Mitoma, Nketiah, Havertz, and Heung-min Son. And Nketiah's quite high up there, to be fair. I think Saka or Odegaard would be they would be higher for me in my estimation. Then going to the price changes, Luke Shaw and Saka are about to go up. I think Luke Shaw, after his masterclass today, a lot of people are bringing him in. Remember, he does blank in Game Week 25, so not a great transfer right now in my opinion. Martinelli, Mitrovic, Almiron and Martial are about to go down, and that is pretty much all the updates there in regards to all of that. One other thing I wanted to show you is the captaincy in the top 10k. 93%, almost 94%, went for Erling Haaland as captain. A 4-pointer, subbed up for half-time. Faces Arsenal next. Has a bit of an injury doubt, apparently. But not looking too good so far. And look at Mahrez, who some people in the chat captained. Only 0.11% of captain him, which is unbelievable. That would have been a massive haul. I am kind of regretting maybe not going a bit different with the captaincy there. But you can't get everything right. I also benched Luke Shaw, but also started Tony. So there you go. Apples and oranges. Things can't always go your way. Let's back to my team here. Let's keep on going to your questions. Ori says I triple captain Rashford last week and my team is template. I don't want to go very crazy because I know what will happen. Every time I gain a nice rank over the couple of weeks, it's gone in one bad week. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of frustrating sometimes because you might have a differential. In my case, I had Botman, who I was counting on, Ivan Toney. That didn't really gain me too much. Even Riyad Mahrez, because I didn't start someone as template as Luke Shaw. So I do understand your frustrations there. Yes, Alex, I think it still is. Of course, it's difficult, but still possible for sure. Yeah, I definitely would start Trossard. No doubt about it. Obviously, like I said, Martinelli could thrive against City with the way they play, but maybe I would even consider Martinelli up front and Trossard on the left. I genuinely would consider that as well. More of a dynamic front three, all of them interchanging. Trossard can sometimes shift to the right or even up front, etc. I think that could work out really well. But of course, Arteta will know what to do. Hopefully he can execute it because Arsenal's record against City is awful. Right now, my favourite player is probably Odegaard, to be honest. I think Partey is the best player overall, the most important anyway. But my favourite would be Odegaard. Yeah, I think so. I also like Gabriel a lot. I think he's very underrated, and people have been saying he's the one making mistakes and Saliba's been amazing, but I completely disagree, especially since the North London derby back in September. Up until that point, I think Saliba was the best defender in the league, arguably, but since then, he's been very shaky, and if anything, Gabriel has been absolutely solid. Should I start Rico? Worth selling him for Kilman? I think it's worth selling him to Kilman, but you could also save that for 25, to be fair. I think Rico Lewis will get a start in one of the next 2 games against Nottingham Forest in 24 or Arsenal. My prediction would be a start against Nottingham Forest. Never realised Jota is such an important pressing trigger for Liverpool. Yeah, but also for me, Liverpool are lacking a lot in the midfield. That is the key area where Liverpool lose out on, and that's why the defence have no protection, there's no creativity, and the likes of Salah look absolutely lost on the pitch. I wouldn't do that. I like Felix. I think he's looking pretty promising. I even said this before his red card against Fulham, but I wouldn't sell Mitrovic for him. If it's Tony, then yeah, because he blanks in 25. But Mitrovic, he has been frustrating, so I can understand that. But I wouldn't be in a rush to do that. Let's put it that way. No, definitely not, Mohamed. Definitely not. Look at the points totals over the course of the season. No City defender is even close to the top 5. And, Cancelo was there, of course, but now he's gone. I don't think so. I'm actually probably going to go without any of them. Even the fixtures, they're there. Of course, City are also looking better as well, but still a bit vulnerable defensively. And I don't really have that confidence in a defender being nailed and also keeping the clean sheet anyway. Thank you, Seb Gold. Thank you very much. I appreciate you tuning in. Don't have a free hit chip for 29, so trying to set up my team for that double. Think Maddison needs to be in there? Well, for Double Gameweek 29, yes, I think he could be a really good option should he double. Don't forget Blank Gameweek 28, though. That could also maybe catch you out a little bit, let alone Blank Gameweek 32 as well. So maybe, Alex, a wild card could also help you to prepare for Gameweek 29 as well. So you can maybe deaden your team to 28, then wild card. We'll bounce now. I'm playing a centre-back in a 7 versus 7 intramural tournament match in 30 minutes. Good luck, Aranya. Hopefully it goes well, and hopefully you perform like Van Dijk in his prime or something. Maybe someone even better. I don't know, but good luck, mate. What's happening with Haaland? He came off with a small problem. I think he's got a knock. He should be fine for Wednesday. I would be... Look, I'm not buying it. He's going to start against Arsenal. No, Raman. Like I said earlier, Haaland has already featured in the game week, so there's no chance he'll be benched. Start Ben Mee or Kilman for next week. I think I'd go for Ben Mee. Yeah, I think Ooh, that's a tough one. That is a really tough one. Yeah, Ben Mee. I'd go for Ben Mee, but honestly, you could even start both. It's a really tough call. I captain Rashford. Decent. I mean, so far, better than Haaland. And if Haaland does miss out, which he won't, against Arsenal, then you'll be laughing there. I have a rough idea of my chip strategy, but I want to know more first about the doubles and blanks later in the season. And we should know more by Game Week 25. But my kind of plan right now is to wildcard around Game Week 29. Maybe play the free hit in one of the blanks or doubles between 28 and 34, and to also bench boost in that time period too. So that is my plan right now, using all of the chips basically around 28 to 34. Jota's so underrated, but it's not just him. Nothing in the squad works properly, but Alisson, every single player should improve. Yeah, that is true. For me, the key thing, and it's not the only thing, but the key thing is the midfield. The pricing lulls us into sticking with City. Time to shift to more Brighton, Fulham, and I can see Chelsea coming on strong. I particularly like the defenders for Chelsea. Badiashile in goal, Kepa, of course, and maybe Felix up front. Yeah, Mitoma and Tete are all legends. Yeah, Fulham have been fairly decent, actually, in recent weeks defensively. Mitoma, of course, he's had a great breakout season too. What else do we have? Yeah, mate, I'm absolutely convinced Haaland starts. There's no doubt in my mind. Name 3 targets for Arsenal, Man United. Remember, Man United will blank in 25, so it might not be the best time to buy them, but 3 targets from each team or overall? If it's overall, then I'd say Rashford, Saka, and probably Shaw. They're my favourites. Yeah, Tony was incredible yesterday, I have to say that. In the 3-0 against Brentford early in the season, Saliba and Gabriel absolutely locked out Tony, but this time Tony got the better of them. Could Reece James be a good option? He can be, but I would rather go for a more nailed-on defender, especially when you have so many blanks coming up in 25, 28, and 32. If it's me last season, I'll definitely go for Mahrez captain this week, but after paid off in the early season, I play more safe now. Yeah, I can understand that. I think Haaland has changed maybe our thinking a little bit, made us a bit more cautious in terms of the captaincy. Well, honestly, Nicola, it probably wasn't my idea. I was recommending him, but a lot of us would have done the same thing. He's been in great form. Even statistically, he's better than De Bruyne since the restart, but I appreciate that. I guess Guardiola's going to back up last year's season from now on. I mean, honestly, like I said, even when Arsenal had a commanding lead, I still think City are going to win the league, unfortunately. Who is better, Thiago Silva or Rio Ferdinand? I think Thiago Silva's class, but I'd say Rio Ferdinand is better. I'm now going to sell Mitrovic for Felix. What do you think? Look, honestly, it's not a bad move. It's not a bad move. Mitrovic has been very lackluster in recent weeks, but I still like those upcoming games, at least over the next 2. But look, if there was any forward to go to apart from Kane and Haaland, then I think Felix will be the one. So it's a decent move. Haaland came off due to them being 3-0 up already. Yeah, he had a little bit of a knock, but you're right. They're already 3-0 up. If they weren't, then maybe Haaland would have stayed on the pitch. I'm not sure exactly what is wrong with Mings, but he's expected to be back for Game Week 24 against Arsenal. Value doesn't say quality this season. Many assets proved it. Yes, and normally you'd say that's a good thing. We have more options and stuff, but the template is still so strong. The optimal strategy under one I'll go for is free hit in 29, dead end into a blank, wildcard 33 to set up a bench boost. Yeah, I might consider something similar. Like I said, between 28 and 34 is when I'm looking to use those free chips in particular, and I think that's a pretty solid strategy, to be fair. Once we know more about the fixtures, I will then kind of finalise a plan. I triple captain Haaland because I missed the last deadline with Rashford. So annoying. Yeah, I do feel your pain there. I remember you saying that in the last stream too. You made me go for Mahrez for Bruno last second of the deadline. I appreciate it. Obviously, I'm glad to hear that I've somehow helped some people, but honestly, you ended up making the transfer in the end, and Mahrez has been in great form. So I think his football spoke for himself, really. But it's good to see you made that move, and it has paid off. And now Bruno will obviously blank in 25. I wouldn't say that. They've only You know, they've been good in the last 4 games, only conceded 1 goal, but you can't say they're the best centre-back partnership in the league. I don't think any has been a particular standout this season. Probably Botman and Cher has been the best, I'd say. You got to look at the goals conceded and the clean sheets. No one's better than Newcastle, so Tony's annoying. Yeah, no, he's a nuisance. Like I said, I was very surprised when at the Brentford Stadium we kept him so quiet, but yeah, it's just difficult to do that every single game. He always is involved. He's an absolute handful for defenders. Manish says, I meant transfer. Oh, to buy in real life, is that what you mean in terms of transfer targets? If that's the case, let me know and I can go back to it. Bonus is confirmed. Rashford got nothing apparently. Yeah, he's on 8 points. Yeah, maybe robbed a little bit. You know, he was the catalyst for the comeback. By the way, thank you for letting me know. So I've updated the screen now. Is Henry the best wing in Arsenal history? Well, Henry was kind of a hybrid of a left winger / striker. You know, he's more regarded as a striker. The best wing in Arsenal history? No. Pires is up there, but you've got so many others as well. Even from back in the day, you know, way before my time as well. I actually think Haaland will be benched in the Forest game. It's possible. That is not a bad shout at all. I could see him starting against Arsenal, Champions League, and being benched against Forest. That's a decent shout there. Or he'll be subbed off early. Best low-value defender. Still Newcastle defenders for me, but with blank Gameweek 25 in mind, I'd say Kilman. I really like him at the moment. The best midfielder from Chelsea and Wolves. From Chelsea, Mudryk for me. And from Wolves, Adama Traore. Welcome, Safir. I'm doing well. Thank you very much for asking. What about you? Why -4 this week? Well, I brought in Mahrez and Saka for Bruno and who did I bring him? And Martinelli. It has paid off so far. That wasn't my issue. Luke Shaw is. Reece James or Tarkowski? I'd rather go for Tarkowski just for the double in 25, and also I'd rather go for another Chelsea defender instead. Captain Saka, still have Maddison and Mahrez. Defense in this season is a nightmare. You can tell me that again. You rightly make a good point there with all those defenders. You know, normally we look for these fullbacks that get a lot of attacking returns. Who is it? Just Trippier this season, who everyone has. So yeah, it is a bit annoying to maybe not see more of these defenders popping up with more goals and assists. Force on the VAR calls this weekend. Yeah, I mean, it happens every week. It's just this weekend in particular was more, well, just worse than ever, you could argue. At the peak of their powers, you could say. Yeah, Arsenal game, you know, that could literally decide the title. You see Chelsea dropping 2 points because of that, potentially dropping 2 points with the penalty claim that was obviously not given. Yeah, it's just a disgrace. Not only that, I think Lamina got basically a second yellow card when there were 3 players surrounding the referee. It's just an absolute mess. I haven't completely laid out all my plans for Gameweek 28, to be honest. I could even free hit then, but I am open-minded. Let's put it that way. Right now, my focus is on 25 and 24, and then we'll go for it week by week. Amron injury, I'm not so sure about that. Either way is a sell in 24. If you kept him and got his 10-pointer, really good, but I would sell him in 24. Saka or Mahrez for Bruno? Still Saka for me. He's got the double in 25. Varane Martinez, yeah, it's a good partnership, but I wouldn't say it's the best. This season, it's Botman and Cher. Alexis was really good, but I don't think he's close to the top 3 wingers in Arsenal history. From what I've seen, yeah, Alexis is up there, but I wouldn't say he's in history. I brought in Kane for Tony and Mahrez in for Bruno. One of them returned at least. I still think Kane was a good move. Obviously, for that to backfire in that way is surprising. I would have thought Kane would have gotten the 9-pointer and Tony maybe blanked, but there you go. You see any new Bergkamp in current football? Well, it's funny you say that because his that type of style of play is a dying breed, really. There's not that many number 10s or hybrids of number 9s and 10s, a kind of centre forward playing just behind the striker. Anyone? Not really. There might be someone, but I just couldn't tell you. I think Bergkamp's one of a kind, honestly. Yeah, Enzo's not bad, but yeah, he got the assist, against West Ham. Don't back him to get that many over the course of the season. At least I don't think that will be the case. There could be a UCL Fantasy video tomorrow, like I said, but I think I put it out for people to comment in the comment section of the team selection video of UCL Fantasy. If you want to see maybe a best differentials or something, let me know. But I might not be able to get that video out on Monday. And either way, there will be another stream on Tuesday. So there will be one more piece of UCL Fantasy content, but maybe not maybe not on Monday, basically. Hi Dylan, what's the best midfielder to get in place of Almiron? You got the same midfield as me. Well, that is a bit of a pickle, isn't it? Which midfielder do you have that I don't have? That would be my question. So you have Almiron in for which midfielder that I have? Was it Saka, Odegaard, Rashford, Mahrez, or Andres Pereira? Let me know, and then I'll give you an answer, because for me, one of those Arsenal midfielders, Mahrez and Andres will be the best ones to get in time for Game Week 25. What else do we have? Almiron injury is hand-wrist injury, I read somewhere. Yeah, thank you for that. I wasn't even aware, to be honest, but yeah, he's going to be fine. I want Vlahovic, Frankie, and Kim. I think it's the Napoli defender, Kim J, isn't it? Kim J? I don't think it's J, but yeah. With Napoli defenders, I'd rather go for Di Lorenzo. Frankie, where's Frankie? Vlahovic. Oh, so that's for United, sorry. I'm completely misreading it, because I was thinking, wait, Frankie? Barcelona aren't in the Champions League. Yeah, there would be good signings, to be fair. I don't see Frankie de Jong going to United, to be quite frank, but you never know. Maybe the Dutch links will help. I think that's a good signing in defence, but then again, who would he displace? Varane? Maybe, especially when he's such an injury-prone player. Vlahovic is a decent goal scorer, or a really good goal scorer, but I'm not a really big fan of him in other areas of the pitch, to be quite frank. I don't think his overall play is that great. Yeah, I mentioned it earlier, I genuinely do. I think it really hinders Spurs and their chances of top four, and Harry Kane is still great. I don't think he will be as good, though, potentially. Thank you, Azuma. Like I said, no worries, mate. I appreciate the kind words. Kim Min Jae, yeah. It's just because I saw Kim Nae Jae and I was confused, so my bad. Osimhen, another option? Yes, but then you've got Chelsea sniffing around, and they're not going to be the only ones. Trust me, he's doing really well. Thank you, Safir. No worries about that, and hopefully you're doing well. What about Captain Rashford and Haaland will play Forest away? Mate, if you check my team right now, I'm genuinely considering Rashford and Kane for the captaincy. And based on how things have gone recently, right now I'm putting the armband on Rashford. So honestly, it's a good shout. I do like it. And even before this week, before Haaland's solitary assist so far, I was genuinely considering it anyway. And Forest have been pretty decent in recent weeks. I know they lost 2-0 to Fulham, but I think that Rashford against Leicester could be really good. Thank you, Safir. And thank you, Mutalib. Yeah. What else do we have? Vlahovic versus Osimhen. I think Osimhen's a better strike overall. Now, I haven't seen much. Like, I don't watch Serie A week in, week out or anything, but from what I've seen, Osimhen for sure. Champions League as well. I think he's just more of a... How do I describe it? I like his energy, his high pressing. With Vlahovic, I just think, besides his goals, doesn't really offer too much else for me. I still have Rodrigo and Almiron and have Mahrez, Saka and Rashford. What movements do you suggest? I think Rodrigo's the one to definitely sell. He's out for quite some time, I think 2 or 3 months, so he's the one to sell. I'd go for Odegaard. Odegaard in for Rodrigo still. Yeah, Kim Nae Jae, yeah, honestly, I have no idea. But yeah, that was my fault. Is Mitrovic to Felix worth a transfer now or later? Well, if you were to make that move, I'd do it now. I don't have Andreas. What about a player who has a double in 25? Good question. The thing is, I can't bring myself to recommend an Everton or Wolves midfielder. Maybe Salah, but I'm guessing you can't afford that. Gakpo, it's really slim pickings for me right now. Salah's the best one from the double game makers besides Arsenal players. Yeah, I think Bentancur's a pretty good player. Even in the World Cup, he almost scored a solo goal against Portugal, I remember. It was an incredible run. Thank you, Azuma. 3-4 players would you suggest for Game Week 25? I have 6 players blanking. 3-4 players I suggest for Game Week 25. Saka. An Arsenal defender like Zinchenko. I'd say Kilman. And potentially Salah. That would be my 3 or 4. Tony captain. I wouldn't captain him, but I'm happy to have him against Palace. Haaland has slowed down bar that game versus Wolves, considering a differential. Yeah, you just know, as soon as you go against him, he will absolutely just make you regret it. Do you think 185 centimeters is enough for classic strikers? You don't need to be that big. I mean, look at Aguero. He's quite short, and he was a great striker. I don't think height is that important, to be honest. Hi, mate. How's your game going? Honestly, it's okay. I think Mahrez salvaged it in the end. Before the Man City game, I was down to 100k. And before this week, I was 78k. So basically, I've gone up by nothing, really. And benching Shaw has proven to be a disaster class. So you can see it now on screen. Yeah, I'm kind of regretting that. I'm looking at Chelsea players potentially. Badiashile in the defence, because I don't think Cucurella will be nailed on in the long term. And probably Felix. That's really it. And because of my plans heading into 25, I think I'm just going to potentially go for a Chelsea defender. I don't see myself going for Felix. It's a possibility, but I think I'm just going to keep Tony. Look, I think Neves is a good player, but most of his returns will come from penalties or long shots. I would not count on him in a double game week or as an FPL option. Yeah, definitely John Darren. He's going to double in 27 too. He might blank in 28, but still, the double in 27 makes up for it. I think he's a great option. I'm looking to buy him in 26, potentially. He turned down Man United 2020 due to Igalo. That sounds ridiculous when you put it now like that. But maybe if he joined United in 2020, he wouldn't have ended up being the striker he is now. So, yeah, sometimes, it's not that simple. Please suggest someone reasonable, says Raman. I'm not sure what the question is. I can't remember what you put earlier. Do you see Gordon getting nailed in the Newcastle lineup? No, I think he'll be a squad player. Look, it could happen in the future, but right now, I think he's fairly average, in my opinion. I don't think he's a great player. He's not worth that much money, let's put it that way. I think the likes of, say, Maximin and Almiron are better. Height for aerial? Oh, for an aerial threat, I mean, yeah, I think 188, maybe 187. I mean, look, you can't really judge it by just a few centimeters anyway. We made the same mistake. A lot of us did, trust me. A lot of people in the chat have said they bench Shaw, Tony, March, a lot of different players. I would rather sell Botman, I think, even though Newcastle have a better defence. Welcome, Michael. Do you advise to go for differentials? I would not go out of my way and stack your team with differentials, but I would maybe add one or two. I do like that. And I would say Maddison, Iheanacho would be my favourites. And also, I would say someone like Felix. In terms of defenders, Tarkowski will have low ownership. Kilman as well, maybe Dawson in time for 25. So those would be the differentials I'd recommend for you. You don't need to sign all of them, though. What's your favourite player outside of FPL you would love the most to sign for a Premier League club? I try not to say Messi because that would be a boring answer. That's a good question. Favourite player? I mean, one player I would love to see in the Premier League, and I don't think it will happen, is Neymar. I want to say he's my favourite player, but, apart from Messi, I'd say Neymar's up there. Who else? Anyone else? That's a tough one. I need to reconsider that. But yeah, good question. KDB can still be a good asset. Of course, he's got a good record against Arsenal. Let's not forget. I think he's got 5 goals against them. I would not be surprised if he hauled. But I think long-term he is a sell. Would you consider selling Botman? Yeah, I'm looking to do that myself. I discussed my plans earlier. The likes of Botman and Shaw could be making way for Kilman and Tarkowski. Mbappe is now confirmed. Not confirmed, but it looks like he's going to be in the squad, according to reports. Yeah, look, I think Napoli spent 70 million on him. It's far too much money, but with the form he's in, and, goal scorers tend to go for the most money, and in this inflated market, it does make sense. I benched Almiron and Shaw, 22 points for Botman. Yeah, I feel your pain, mate. I did something similar. I've got 23 points on my bench, Shaw and Andres Pereira. It is very frustrating, and it's probably the worst sensation you can have in FPL. I'm thinking of getting a Wolves and Everton defender in 24 and 25. Which one would you recommend getting first? Defenders going out are Cancelo and Patterson, says Magic69. Yeah, I'd go for a Wolves defender first. They would be my favourites. They also have a great fixture in 24, so the answer would be Kilman. Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. It's not all about height. And Lisandro Martinez, a bit like Tevez, that kind of style. Short, but very tenacious, aggressive, and strong. I think the injury affected Mitrovic. Andreas has more returns. That is true. Mitro has had constant injury doubts, even before the World Cup. Heading into that tournament, he was a constant doubt for Serbia. And I think that has definitely impacted him. He's slowed down so much since the first half of the season. Replacement for 24? For 24 and 25, I'd say Felix would be my favourite. I also like Brendan Johnson, but yeah, probably Felix. Neves is an option on pens. Yeah, like I said, he's on penalties and also his long shots. But apart from that, you're really relying a lot on a bit of luck there. Welcome, Tony Cardoso. Do you have any idea if Messi's playing versus Bayern? Well, it looks like he's going to be in the squad and he is expected to be available. So I think he will start. Mbappe could even start as well. Yes, it is worth having Kane, even Lautaro Martinez and a few other strikers, but If Mbappe's fit, and I think we should know more tomorrow, if he's in full team training, Mbappe, I'd go for him, to be honest. And apart from him, I'd probably consider Lautaro or Kane over Messi anyway. Napoli only wants 120 million. Yeah, they are very, very... I mean, if you know their owner, he can be very stingy. I would love to see Hakimi in the Premier League team. Yeah, Man City, he'd do really well at Man City. You know, a bit like Cancelo. Yeah, that could be a shout. 3 defenders for 25, Zinchenko, Tarkowski, and Kilman. Forster will be the Tottenham goalkeeper. Yes, I mean, they have no one else really, unless they want to go for the third goalkeeper as well. Those you said are all Argentine. Did Argentinian born to be that kind of person? Not all of them, I would say, but I know a lot of them will have that kind of thing. Even Maradona, you know, he was 5'4", and he was tenacious, aggressive, and obviously you saw some of his shithousery, so to speak. So I want to say Argentinian people are born to be like that, but some of them can be it. I mean, look at Emi Martinez as well, another shithouse, you could say too. Hakimi plus Ziyech. Yeah, but what, at PSG or at Chelsea? Because, yeah, I don't know. That seemed really dodgy the way Chelsea blocked that last-minute move. Hakimi, no, not even Hakimi. Ziyech looked really pissed off there. Patterson to Tarkowski. Patterson is back in training, so bear that in mind, but Tarkowski is nailed on. He's also the most likely to get goals from the Everton side amongst defenders. So, yeah, I think it is a worthwhile transfer, especially for free. Yeah. Should I start Mudryk or Zinchenko next game week? I would start Mudryk. He hasn't been great in his starts, but I'd go for him. Yeah, most of the small and strong players from Argentina. Yeah, but even Uruguay. Uruguay are a bit similar in that regard. You know, Torreira was an example a few years ago. So, yeah, maybe just the region. I think just South Americans in general can be like that. That's why a lot of fans love these South American players. You could even argue Caicedo at Brighton, although he's not maybe the strongest. But, yeah. Mahrez, KDB, and Martinelli to Saka -4. Worth to do it this week? I'm guessing it's Mahrez in for KDB, because I don't see any reason why you do Mahrez to KDB unless you think you'll be benched. Yes, I think it is worth to do it this week, but I have to say the Mahrez KDB move could, you know, that could definitely backfire. I could see Martinelli being benched against City or against Aston Villa, but the Mahrez KDB move, I don't know, it seems very, very strange, or not even strange. It can backfire basically, and I had this sensation even this week. People complaining about Shaw are using hindsight. Yeah, look, and I even said this earlier in the stream. You know, with Luke Shaw, my main frustration is because I benched him last minute for Ivan Toney, so it was looking like a really good move. In the end, I lost 3 points on that. But my main kind of frustration as well, beyond that, is because with Luke Shaw, he probably should have conceded a goal or two. You know, Leeds had the chances. They were the better team for most of the game. They didn't take it. And in the end, Luke Shaw gets a 12-pointer. The worst case scenario for those that benched him. For Game Week 24, should I play Tarkowski and bench Trippier? I'd play Trippier, to be honest, but I can understand if you end up doing that. And you also want to find ways to go against the grain. I'll be honest, you know, I've said start Trippier for a lot of people here today. I might reconsider, because I also want to go a bit different sometimes and not just go for these players with 60% ownership and start them there every single week. And Trippier's facing Liverpool as well. But I have to say, I have a feeling you'll get a haul there. It depends, you know, you could argue Godin, Jimenez, Suarez, you know, they're quite tall, or at least they're not short. But yeah, I don't know. It's kind of a mixture with Uruguay. I wouldn't say they're particularly tall. I benched Shaw and Andreas for Akanji and Matoma. Yeah, similar to me as well. To be honest, Akanji, a double gimmick player. Matoma, an informed player. Probably the most informed in the league, at least up there. It's not a bad decision. I don't really blame you. Thank you, Alex. That's probably the only big thing for me this week. After 25, would you buy Watkins or Toney? Definitely Toney. There's no doubt about that in my mind. I think he's by far the best striker besides Haaland and Harry Kane. Is it worth a -4 from Mitrovic to Felix then? Would I do it for a hit? No. Would I do it for free? Yeah, I probably would then. Why is no one talking about Zambo Anguissa? Yeah, a completely different player under Napoli. Sorry. You know, when I saw he moved there, I was like, that's an interesting move, but he's been absolutely tearing it up in the Champions League, and in Serie A he's been doing really well. Got 61 points with 14 on the bench. Not too shabby. Honestly, I would take that instead of what I have. Do you think De Bruyne will play the next one? Yes, no doubt about that. I think he plays against Arsenal. Against Forest, look, if I had to kind of predict it, and this is probably a bad idea, I think he starts against Arsenal, against Forest, and he's benched against Bournemouth. I think he'll be benched in one of the next 3, and he'll be in 25. Sean Dyche's Burnley are the typical physical team. Yes, very difficult to play against. His V-shaped pressing, as he describes it. And from set pieces, they are such a handful. And Arsenal, before that Everton game, I don't think they conceded in, from a set piece. Although maybe you could count the Lissandro Martinez one as well. Arsenal recently conceded so many headers. And before that, in the first 19 games of the season, 0. So definitely something to look at. Start Haaland or Mitoma. Come on, you're not going to bench Haaland, are you? I'd start Haaland. Felix or the double Gameweek striker. I can't remember who it is. Darwin Nunez. If you're talking about 25, because I wouldn't really recommend Cunha from Wolves or Calvert-Lewin right now. But yeah, my preference would be Nunez because of the double, simply put. Yeah, recently we have been, unfortunately. I mean, that's fair enough, Oliver, but benching Haaland against Forest, I don't really see that as a good move. Welcome, Chelsea Blues. Thinking of bringing Maddison for Mahrez. With the doubts about Mahrez in the next few weeks, with the Champions League approaching, I think that makes sense, but it's also very risky. Either way, whether you buy or sell, whatever you do, it's a risk with Mahrez, and I think Maddison's one of the best replacements for him. Do you think Tomiyasu helps the problem? Not necessarily. It's more of a structural issue. Against Everton, for example, we've got Odegaard marking the front post with Tarkowski attacking that area. It already happened earlier in the game. All they needed to do was put someone like Gabriel Saliba in that position and you probably avoid that goal. So I don't think Tomiyasu is necessarily the solution to that. Yeah, Haaland will play. It's just a knock. Honestly, I would not be concerned about that whatsoever. So yeah, thank you very much to everyone for tuning in today. Maybe a bit of a short one, 1 hour, 30 minutes, but we will be back on Tuesday for the deadline stream, UCL Fantasy, and be sure to smash the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. Let's try to get this stream to over 100 likes. Let's also push on to 18,000 subscribers. We're very close to that. I think just over 100 away. So I'll answer a few more questions quickly and then wrap things up as well. Any comments about Burnley and Championship teams? I don't tend to think about them at this stage of the season, but Burnley are looking good, of course. Once we get to the tail end of the season, that's when we can start to maybe discuss them, bring them into our thoughts. But I don't watch the Championship, to be quite frank. And once I do more research later in the season, that's when I can give you a more informed, opinion of these teams. But I just know that Burnley are doing well. That's pretty much it. Good substitutes for Almiron and Martinelli apart from Salah. Well, apart from the ones that you probably have already, like Saka, Odegaard, and Mahrez, for Gameweek 25, honestly, the double Gameweek players don't really scream out to me. I'm not really that big of a fan. The main ones would be Rashford and Mitoma. They blank in 25. So when I'm looking at 25 specifically, I'd say Maddison. I'd probably go for Maddison. Thank you, Alex. I appreciate that. It's always a pleasure talking to you, and thank you for being a channel member. And thank you, Wasing. England front three, Rashford, Kane, Saka. Which defence can play against this front three? Well, I think there can be defences that can play against it. It's a really good front three, but Brazil, Argentina. I think Argentina were actually quite poor defensively in the World Cup, looking back on it, but normally they're quite solid, and I think they could maybe get under their skin as well a bit. But I'd say Argentina, Brazil. From Europe, Italy, as they did in the Euro final. Anyone else? Don't think Germany are great defensively. Spain, no. Portugal. No. Maybe Portugal with a new manager, but I'm not so sure how Roberto Martinez is going to do there. Thank you very much, K-Wing. Thank you very much. Edison to Pickford. For free, yes, I would do that. To be honest, though, I want to look long-term because Pickford's good for 25, but then the fixtures aren't that great. And I would rather go for Raya, Pope, or Kepa long-term. Of course, the first two blank, so I think that just leaves you with Kepa. I think he's the kind of best set-and-forget goalkeeper until the end of the season, so I generally would just go for Kepa. James to Shaw. I would not buy Shaw this week. He faces Leicester. I think he could do well there, but he then blanks in 25. If you want to buy Shaw, do it in 26, in my opinion. Of course, one other thing that you could say that's flawed with my logic is thinking too much about blanks and doubles, which may be true to a certain extent, but I just think it's about timing as well. And I think Gameweek 22 was the perfect chance to buy Shaw. Right now, I think you would have missed his hauls, and in 24, there's no guarantee of a clean sheet against the resurgent Leicester as well. Any international duty coming up? Yes, during Easter. So I think the end of March, and kind of just to let you know, I'll probably be going away for around a month as well, and there might not be streams and stuff around that period, but of course I'll let you know. But yeah, the end of March is when there's an international break, as it tends to be. You think KDB will have a haul in this midweek? Yes. Honestly, I'm not even trying to jinx or whatever. I genuinely think he will do something, an assist or a goal. I'm backing City to do something there as well. Anything on Patterson? He is back in training. There are pictures of that. I'm not so sure exactly when he's going to, be back in the side. I'm not sure what the latest update is. I can briefly show you using Premier Injuries, the website. So if you go to the latest comments by Sean Dyche on Nathan Patterson, Nathan is back on the grass completing individual work as his rehabilitation from a medial knee problem steps up. So no kind of update on when he's going to be back specifically. A potential return apparently could be the 1st of March, which would be the Arsenal game at the Emirates in Double Gameweek 25. He's currently being assessed, but he is ruled out for the time being. So there is a chance he's back for Gameweek 25, but I wouldn't really expect him to start both games in that double. I think City beat Arsenal. Well, I honestly don't blame you because City have beaten them in the last 7 league meetings, to be honest, and they beat them in the FA Cup. They've got the momentum as well. Arsenal have been looking very flat in recent games. I think the way City play could go into Arsenal's hands. That's the only thing I would say. But I think if City can get that solid 11 with Diaz coming into the side, yeah, honestly, at the moment, I'd say City are the favourites. And if it was just a few weeks ago or months ago, I think Arsenal would have won the game. But right now, it's a bit different. Thank you, Bada. Thank you very much. Thank you, Wacing, as well. I'll see you on Tuesday too. Yeah, check Premier Injuries, FPL Statistics, all of those websites, FPL.team. They're very good for injury news, also for price rises and all of that good stuff, visualizing your team for future weeks, and it gives you a good idea of the transfers you want to make as well. So thank you to everyone for tuning in. I very much appreciate it. You know what to do. Keep smashing the like button, subscribing if you're new, and all of that good stuff. Check the links in the description below for the Patreon, the Discord server, and the FPL League, the channel memberships. All of that is there, and there will be UCL Fantasy videos and streams over the next few weeks as well. There could be a UCL Fantasy video tomorrow, but there definitely will be a stream on Tuesday, so be sure to tune in for that. And there's going to be more FPL content as well headed your way in time for Gameweek 24, not to mention all the doubles and blanks coming up very soon. So thank you very much. If you've got any more questions or comments you want to leave, then put it down in the comment section below, and I'll answer as many as I can, and also in the Discord server. So thank you very much, and I'll see you very soon.